So you're having really great conversations and you connect to people and you have the best solution for them in your coaching offer, but then they say they need to think about it and then they disappear. Ever happened before?
Today, we are going to talk about sales and selling like a boss. I love this.
Selling like a boss. Yeah, to me it sounds corny, but yeah, sure. Well, selling like a boss, what it comes down to is really closing those calls.
Yeah. And I think one thing is closing the calls. I think there's another thing about the being a salesperson and the emotional thing about sales, how you feel about sales. So there's actually a lot of different things. So let's dive in, because first thing, of course, a lot of coaches feel it's awkward to sell, or it feels confronting. It feels like I'm pushing or trying to convince someone.
Or I'm stepping over the line and I'm unethical, or I'm afraid to manipulate, or like I know that I have a great thing over here, but I don't want to influence people, or I don't want to come on too strong. I don't want them to view me as whatever. There are so many things that limits us from being able to have a real conversation.
Yeah.
And like, I totally agree. We never manipulate. And I want you to understand that you can't manipulate unless you have a hidden agenda, like that you're actually doing something that you're not transparent about. So don't worry about manipulation. That's not going to happen because you're going to be upfront and transparent. When it comes to convincing people, we do not want to convince people. We want to make sure that they are able to make that decision themselves, and the decision can be no. Yeah. So we're not convincing them that yes is the best thing to say yes, because what happens when you convince people is that you're going to have to convince them again and again and again throughout the process anyway. So you're just creating a nightmare for yourself in terms of administrational work and recommitting this person and blah, blah, blah. Let that person become ready and say yes to you because they want to. So there is no manipulation. There is no convincing people. There is no hidden agendas, full transparency. But what it really, really comes down to, what is most important, is to care for another human being beyond what people usually do.
Yeah.
And when they feel that, it's going to do half of everything you need to do in the sales call. The rest is clarification and paying attention, listening actively to what the situation is.
I really like it. And I think there's some really big mistakes to go through here.
Yeah.
Some like the biggest mistakes people go through. The first thing is the belief. What do I believe sales is? Like, I believe sales is convincing. I believe sales is pushy. Sales is something negative. Having that belief is devastating to your business. Let's just face it. If you do not sell, you do not help people. If you do not sell, you don't have a business.
Everything you do in coaching, you can do without a business if you take away the sales part. Because the only reason why you have a business is to be able and allowed by the government to do monetary transactions so that you get money and then pay money for stuff. If you take that out, it's not a business anymore. It's a hobby and something you do apart from wherever you do your business elsewhere.
And the thing about being stuck in, I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to convince people. What would this person think? How would this person think about me if I'm doing this? Won't this person think this about me? You see, there's a common thing in all of these sentences. And the combinator here is, it's all about me, myself, and I. Yeah. I don't want to. I don't like. I don't think. What would this person think about me? Me. The thing is, when we are struggling with sales, is because we are thinking it's about us. We make it about us. We are more concerned about ourselves and how we feel and what people could judge us for. So we're too caught up in ourselves. That's when we struggle.
And most situations, people either have kids of their own or have family members that they care for. And when it comes to people that you care for, you do not have a problem having those real conversations, especially if you're a mother or if you're a father to kids. because your job and your obligation and your responsibility is to guide them towards building capability on their own or for themselves. That's your core responsibility, so that they become capable and can make good decisions for themselves. And what's really important to realize is you can see yourself having a tough conversation with your kid, saying that you can't do this, and having these conversations with their kids, letting them know the hard truths, having them enroll and follow your guidelines, the rules of your house, and whatever it is. You have no problem with doing that to them. But for some reason, when it comes to a future client that you're on a sales call with, it feels different.
Yeah.
What are you connected to in the moment you're disciplining your child or teaching your child or helping your child compared to a person that you don't know? And what if you could be connected to that same value or version of you when you're speaking to a person that you don't know? What it really comes down to, how can you care more for them than what you care about your image or what they will think or if they will judge you or whatever it is?
And that's the key word. It's about them. If you make it about them, what happens if you start saying, let me care about that, it also needs to come with some curiosity. I'm curious about this person. Who is this person? How can I get to understand this person? What does this person need? There's a lot of curiosity, a lot of questions that come up. When we make it about that person, it makes it so much easier.
You need to give yourself a reason to care.
Yeah.
So you need to find something to care about.
Yeah.
And it's a great exercise. And you don't need to speak to people in order to do this, but you can literally go out and walk in whatever city you live close to, and you can look at people and challenge yourself with, what can I find about a single person, random person that walks by? What can I find and authentically love about this person that has nothing to do with you, that you're not going to communicate to them, but just finding something that you can really appreciate and care for? Because amazing things will happen, and you will realize stuff that, like, there are stuff that I care for and that I stand up for and that I'm prepared to work really hard for to help people achieve. And that will make you a better salesperson, because what it comes down to is your capability of building real relationships where you care beyond how much you care about yourself.
100%. So I want you to remember this. First of all, no one jumps on a sales call with you if they do not secretly hope you can help them with something. They're not looking for a friend. They have other people to talk to. If they taking the effort to actually being on a call, they're hoping that you're going to say something that can help them. And the other thing is, you're not on a sales call to close a client. You're on a sales call to figure out if this person is a fit and if you can help them. Then what happens automatically, if you follow a structure, if that person is actually someone you can help, then you can get to the thing about, if I'm going to help you, what would that look like? So that will change how you believe about sales. Big problem most people do is that they're jumping on a call and there's no structure for it. If there's no structure, we're not getting it somewhere. It becomes like a coffee talk. I don't know if that's a Danish thing, because I'm Danish. In the old days, we used to say, hey, let's have a coffee agreement. And that was kind of a smooth sales call where we drink coffee and we talk and nothing. Literally, waste your time talking to people and feel like you're important. That's what it is.
Yeah, super, super ridiculous.
That is something that happens when people are too afraid to owning what is this chat going to be about. And if someone is reaching out to you in the chat saying, hey, should we jump on a meeting? The first normal question you should always ask is, what's the meaning of this meeting? What are we going to talk about? What's the outcome we're looking for? Own your space. Own that you're not just chatting to people. There's a reason for us to have a chat. If it's a sales course, there's a reason why we're here. And the reason is not to sell. The reason is to figure out, is it a fit? Can I help you? Or what do you need? If I cannot help you, I can point you somewhere else. But if I can help you, then we can have a chat about what would it look like. That is why we're getting on this call. But there needs to be a structure then from taking you from A to C. Like, how do we make sure that is actually what will happen on the call? If there's no structure, I believe that a big mistake, now we get to another mistake. A big mistake that happens is that, again, the ego takes over and it becomes a chat about my stacking, my program, what I give, what I help people with. You see, again, what happens? The ego takes over again and it becomes about you.
Yeah.
And if it's about you, it's not that interesting for the other person.
No.
Because they're more concerned about their life and what they do, the problem they have, and what they want to achieve.
Yeah, and let's just face it, it doesn't matter what kind of conversation it is. If two people are talking and both of them focusing on themselves, the conversation is going to be very, very flatlined and it's going to be over very soon. Social capability is the foundation of sales. Being able to connect to someone else and focus on them, being interested in them.
Yeah.
So important. And then it all comes down to building trust and really, really withering that out. So the second mistake, it's all about us focusing on ourselves. That's not what we signed up for when we said that, hey, I want to run a business. I want to become a coach. I want to do it for me. No, you didn't.
So if we need to have a structure, we need to have a plan, like what is the steps we go through. But what we also need to have in this structure is we need to have a framing of the call. The framing of the call is where you give away what is the structure we are going to use here. That is for you to be able to just set the expectations and what will happen. When you do the framing of the call, what happens is that you're helping the person to put down their guards. If they're on a call with you and they believe that you're going to sell to me, there'll be like that resistance coming up, like don't try to sell me, which is why it's so important that you start the call by framing what is going to happen at this call so they can take down their shoulders and open up to have a conversation without feeling sold to, but just being a part of a conversation. And if I'm going to give an example, a simple example could be like, hey, thank you for being here on this call. I just want to say I'm really happy you're here on time because we only have 30 minutes. If they start going into a rant later, it's easy for you to cut in and say, you know what, I really think that's interesting. However, I just want to take care of the time. So is it okay we move on? Framing the time, length of the call in the beginning makes it easy for you to also steer the call later on. So it's about the framing. So thank you for being here. We have now 30 minutes. So what will happen on this call is, first of all, I'm going to ask you a few questions. I want to figure out where you're at today regarding this thing. Where is it you see you want to be, so we can see if we can make a plan to help you to get to that place. And then we'll find out what is the bottlenecks you have right now that is holding you back from actually achieving that goal you have. Is that okay with you? See, what I'm doing now is I'm framing what will happen, that I'm going to ask a few questions and I ask for permission. Is that okay with you? Ask for permission so we can get a yes. That's fine. And then say, so when we understand all of that, then if I believe that I won't be able to help you, I would just be politely pointing you to what could help you instead. Is that okay with you? And they'll say, yeah. However, if I believe I can help you, then we can have a chat about what it would look like. Is that okay with you? Yes. So what I've done now, I've framed the call, made it very clear. It's very easy to be here because now we're just going to have a chat. They'll be opening up. You framed like the length of the call. You framed what will happen at the end of the call. You took away all of the pressure of this is me gonna be selling to you from like go and now I'm gonna sell. You take all of that away, which means now you can have a conversation.
Yeah.
Boom. That's how you sell like a boss.
In order to be able to do that, of course, we need to mean everything that we say.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this and feel like, but does that mean that I'm going to have 50% of the people that comes to my sales calls, I'm going to refer somewhere else because they're not a good fit? No, because they're at your call for a reason. What you're telling the person on the other side is, I'm not going to sell to you no matter what. I'm going to focus on you and on what's best for you. And you really need to come from a place where you believe that that's what you're doing, where you're investing in them. Again, it's not about you. It's not about that person saying yes to your offer. Because if you're consistent with working on your business, you're going to get your clients anyway. And the first time where I really felt that I don't need this person to say yes, my sales went from 50% conversion rate to 85%. Yeah. Because it wasn't about that next person. It was about the service that I was able to provide.
Yeah.
And absolutely possible to have an 85% conversion rate if we do the work leading up to the call the right way.
If you're stuck in believing that what if like half of them I need to point, then you didn't do the work.
Yeah.
before that,
No.
right? Because then you didn't qualify. You only want to have qualified people on the call.
Yeah, and there are a lot of people who are starting their coaching business with kind of like run ads to book a call.
Yeah.
So it's an ad to a book a call page, and then they book a call, and then they either not show up. So you're going to see 70% of the people who booked the call didn't show up. The 30% of people who did show up weren't a good fit, because we've tried to automate something that can't be automized.
Yeah, but it cannot if you're new, because you don't know how to do it if you're new. So it can be, but because you need to qualify, then there needs to be a sequence leading up that is really qualifying people and taking out the wrong ones. But people, I think it's more about, I need to just get calls. If I just get more calls, and that's what marketers are selling to coaches out there.
There isn't an agency that can
magically do it for you if you're beginning. So this is something you can set up when you had a couple of 100 clients. You know them well enough, and you're a better marketer. So at this time you can control that. But in the beginning, it's going to be hard.
You can't automate relationships.
No.
You can build funnels and structures based on your knowledge about these people that helps them to get to know you, which is equally effective. But you need to have within your funnel a way to build a real relationship with any person that buys, because it's the fundamental principle of any sales ever being made.
Great. So now we have that. I want to just quickly go to the third mistake. We have a structure, we have the framing. The third mistake is not daring to ask the questions. Now we get to the point where we start digging into, uncover their needs, we'll understand this person. What is the problem? What is the bottleneck? What is it they want? Where are they now? Like, ask those questions. And at this point, you really need to ask some questions so you understand it, and you need to dig down, because I believe most people stay on the surface level. And that means that when you come to the place in the sales call where you're coming to, now you're going to give an offer, you will probably hear, well, let me just think about it. Now, again, you can make a great offer and make sure your offer is better, and go back and watch the other episode about offers. If you did not dig down and really dug into understanding what is this really about? How important is this really? What is it costing you? Why do you really want to change this? If you don't dare to ask those questions, it's not just you who don't get the answers. The person you're sitting with is also not finding what's in there, like the answer. So everyone stays on the surface. And let's just be honest, as a coach, like staying on the surface, you don't really matter.
No, and you don't want to coach.
No.
There is a distinction here. You want to dig down to find the key motivators that is helping them to realize that this is really important. And you don't find those on the surface. But you do not want to coach them.
No.
Because you do not want to dig into a pain point or something that is traumatic. Start a process where they are confused about something that has nothing to do with your offer.
So you need to understand it. They need to understand it. But you don't start the coaching process. You don't fix it on the call.
It's so easy. And here's how you do it. And you said it, but here's how you do it. You ask, that sounds super interesting. Why is that important to you? Wow. Tell me more about that. Okay.
In what way is that affecting you as well? Like, there's some different great questions.
The most important part is that you're able to reach something that is to them important. And when we're educating about this, we're usually talking about where they are now, where they want to be, and the problems for them to get there. It's 3 simple steps. And you can use that as your guideline to figure out what's life like for you today. And then dig into that. They're going to give you headlines. Well, my life is great because I can do this and this. Okay, cool. So why is that important to you? Let me know about that detail that you said, and let them guide you to knowing and understanding what is really important to them and how they really experience their lives. Because if they share that to you, 2 things will happen. You will know it, and they will know that you know it, which means that they will feel safe and starting to connect to you because you know stuff about them, because you've been actively listening to what it's like to be them, so that they'll connect to you. And that's what it comes down to, because if they feel you really care, yeah, I do. And it's not just that I care for you, I care for what I do, I care for my profession, and I care for the decision that I made when I said I'm going to help people. So everything in terms of like, I don't like sales, shake that off and commit to something else, because you're not going to do the 70s sleazy car salesman pitches. Don't try to make something awful sound great. Be straight with them. Speak honestly to them. And the moment you do that, what's going to happen is that they're going to feel you really get them, and they're going to feel that your offer is a no-brainer. And it's not because you give such a great offer, it's because you really understand where they are, where they come from, and what their problems and aspirations are.
let's close it here, and then we go back to talk more about sales on another episode. I want to give away a framework, a structure for having an amazing sales call, both for you, but also for your prospect. So down below, there's a link to come and join our Facebook group, because in there we have way more trainings for you. And then we'll give you the ultimate sales framework, a 5 pages PDF you will literally have in front of you when you do your sales course.
Yeah, and it's a framework. It does come with kind of like a sales script, but that sales script is for you to practice off calls. And then you bring it to the call with knowing the structure, and then you don't read out of it. You follow the headlines rather than the word by word thing. Because if it's a word by word thing, you're going to focus more on the paper than you do on the person, and focus on the person. The person is much more important.
Great. So join the group and get the ultimate sales framework, and subscribe if you want to
Get new episodes every Wednesday.
see you soon.